Welcome back to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. The time is a 8:15, and we'll be looking at I think a topic that has been doing the round since after the elections, the seventh administration, the forming of the seventh administration. We know by now that Parliament, the first sitting of Parliament, will be taking place on Friday, and we are yet to hear word from the ANC about the formation of this government of national unity. What is it going to look like? Who's involved? But I think before the end of the day, we should be having an idea because Friday is quickly, coming by, and we'll be joined by research associate at the Social Policy Initiative, Mr. Duma Ggubule, just to give us insight on what we can expect on the look of the seventh administration. What does it entail? Which political parties are involved? And ultimately, what does this mean for South Africa going forward? Mr. Ggubule, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Salam Media.
Thanks for the invite, Silailo.
First and foremost, we haven't yet got official word from the ANC. They've been shopping around. They've been having meetings with all sorts of political parties. From what where are we standing right now with only a few days before that first sitting of Parliament takes place?
Okay, what I do know, Silailo, usually is that the ANC could have tied this up long ago if it wanted to, if it knew what it wants to do and listened to the majority of its members and the majority of its members on its National Executive Committee. The problem is there is a group within the ANC, what I call the neoliberal or right wing of the ANC, that wants to have a doomsday DA-ANC coalition that will involve the continuation of the failed macroeconomic policies of the past 3 decades. So I don't know which way it's going to fall, but the way it's going now, it's an ANC-DA-IFP alliance, So it's going to entrench these failed economic policies that have resulted in the crisis that we face in South Africa today. So I appeal to listeners, just ignore the political theater. We have an unprecedented crisis of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. So after 30 years, the ANC has made virtually no progress in terms of our economy. So over 30 years, our GDP per capita has increased by only 20%. For example, by comparison, in China, it's about 783%. In India, Ethiopia, Vietnam, other countries, emerging markets, it's about 300% growth in average living standards. And if you look in since 2000, our GDP per capita in 2023 was lower than it was in 2007. So we've had 16 years of declining average living standards. Our GDP growth over the last 15 years has been about 1.2% a year. So what is happening now is that a DA-ANC alliance will just entrench. The ANC has learned nothing from this political calamity. So the DA is a right-wing party. It will just entrench these failed right-wing economic policies with a 62 majority in Parliament, and we will see a continuation of the current path. Now, the current path means that we're going to have another 5 years of declining GDP per capita. So by the end of the seventh administration, we'll have had 21 years of declining average living standards. By the end of the next administration, we will have an increase in number of unemployed people by 2 points. So we currently have 12.1 million unemployed South Africans. We have the highest unemployment rate in the world. It's 41.9%. So by the end of this administration, we will have, according to my calculation and modeling, we're going to have 14.3 million unemployed South Africans will have increased by 2.2 million. The unemployment rate would have increased to 44.8%. So this is a doomsday scenario. I don't understand why financial markets are celebrating this doomsday scenario for this country that will, at some point during the next administration, result in a revolution in South Africa. This is how revolutions are formed. You can't have 2 decades of declining average living standards and nothing breaks, Yeah.
You speak on a doomsday coalition. Johnston Hazen mentioned that a doomsday coalition would be one of the ANC and the EFF, and you seem to lean more on that as an alternative. Why specifically?
Okay, so now the situation is okay. So now we have this doomsday scenario that is definitely going to happen with the ANC-DA coalition. Number one, so there's five parties that got 90% of the votes. So that's the ANC, the DA, the MK, the EFF, and the IFP.
Mm,
So if you're not going to go with the DA, you have to go with the other side. So it's as simple as that. So you have to go with. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with the MK and EFF, but the point is we don't know what's going to happen there. As we know, they, as it stands, they're not going to be part of this coalition. And people must stop using this word "government of national unity." It's not a government of national unity; it's a coalition. Yeah.
And you mentioned the MK. They should be one of the parties, looking at how the numbers came out after the elections. They should be one of the parties which are, well, one would expect to be very integral in this coalition or government of national unity, whatever you want to call it. But well, they're not interested. The MK has applied to block parliament from sitting. They're saying their members won't be attending parliament on Friday. What can we make of them? What were the expectation after the elections? And were they really ready for such an overwhelming number of votes that they've gotten, or it's just the objections are legitimate and they should be considered?
I don't know, but the point is a genuine government of national unity, as Caesar Walsh explained in his podcast, is that it has to include everybody, like more than 90% of the electorate. Now, what is being proposed now is not going to include everybody. It's not going to have the EFF and the MK, which is 25% of the electorate. So it shouldn't be called what you call it, a government of national. It's a unity ANC with the right-wing parties of the five that were so it's not a coalition. Yeah, it's with the right-wing parties, the IFP and the DA. So they must tell us what is actually happening here.
And I want to touch a bit on the EFF. I mean, I think you mentioned that this was supposed to be, well, the government of national unity, or a coalition of this sort should be involving 90% of the electorate. The ANC did say that they've reached out to the MK, they've reached out to the EFF, and
they're trying to dress it up as a government of national unity, something that's innocuous, but they know it's going to result in a DA-ANC coalition. Any arrangement that includes the DA, whether it's government of national unity or a coalition, is entrenching the failed neoliberal economic policies of the ANC. Because even if you have that government of national unity, you're going to have 62% voting for this neoliberal budget. Whether you have a minority government with a confidence and supply agreement, you're going to have 62% voting for the neoliberal budget. So whatever scenario involves the DA is a non-starter that will result in the continuation of these failed macroeconomic policies. And I appeal to everybody, Salam Media listeners, this is what is happening in South Africa. And we should say, we can't continue like this. Look at the economics, look at what is happening in our country. Our country is falling apart because the government has implemented these failed economic policies. Government spending over the past 15 years has been, the government spending on infrastructure has collapsed over the last 15 years. Which country reduces spending on public investment? It is a recipe for chaos, because they're trying to collapse this economy, suffocate the economy to achieve this primary budget surplus. Yeah.
I want us to take a quick break, but when we come back, maybe you could answer this question: could the formation of the ANC, DA, IFP, coalition be a result of the weakness of the MK and the EFF in responding to the call of the ANC? They've not been, forthcoming. They've had one, might say, really unreasonable requirements from the ANC itself, and the ANC still coming very, very confident with their 40% plus. I'm not willing to give in. Maybe we can touch on that. Was it the strength of the DA and the IFP that resulted in what we're seeing, or maybe the weakness of the alternative, which would be the MK and the EFF? But we can touch on that after the break.
This is Salam Media.
Contact Lenasia Livestock and Poultry for all your sadaqah, akika and kurbani requirements. We offer clean, hygienic abattoir style and refrigeration facilities. Sheep, goats and cows are available at competitive market-related prices, direct to the public. We slaughter, slice and distribute in your behalf. But that's not all. Introducing Meatmasters Halal Butchery, our sister company situated on our farm in Lenasia. Unbeatable prices on lamb, beef and chicken. Lenasia Livestock and Poultry. Livestock is our business. We are Sanha approved. Telephone 011 857 1774. Call now.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with many appeal organizations in Gaza.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. The time is 27 minutes past 8, and we're still chatting to Mr. Duma Ggubule about the makeup of the 7th administration and what he calls a coalition of the ANC, DA, and IFP, and not necessarily a government of national unity as it is currently dressed by the ANC. Before we went to the break, I want to touch on, are we here because of the strengths and the influence of the DA and IFP, or maybe the weakness of the EFF and the MK into heeding the call of the ANC, and also the policies and the founding ideologies of the ANC would be most closely aligned to the MK and the EFF, because to be honest, they are breakaway political parties of the ANC essentially. Why didn't the ANC lean more on their side? You mentioned obviously because of that, right-wing influence within the ANC itself. But was there strength? Was there, a willingness from the MK and the EFF, to be participants in this new makeup of the 7th administration?
Okay, well, I don't hold any brief for the EFF on the MK, but the reality is that any arrangement, GNU or minority government or all the options that have been discussed, that includes the DA, results in a continuation of these failed macroeconomic policies. So the only hope for South Africa going forward is to have an arrangement that doesn't include the DA and try and work with the other parties. If the ANC truly understood what went wrong, why they got, like since 2009, the electoral support has gone down by 25.7 percentage points. And all of that has gone to the EFF and the MK. 90% of that has gone to EFF and MK. These are offshoots of the ANC. So if they honestly understood what is going on, it is partly because they had these breakaways from their own party. And number two, we've had a collapse of this economy over the past 15 years. Unemployment, the number of people who are unemployed has increased by 6.1 million. And we had 6 years of darkness under the Ramaphosa administration. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to stop now, and we can't continue like this. So it's not about the strength of anyone, because the majority of ANC members do not want this alliance with the DA. So what you're likely to see with this DA-ANC-IFP alliance is that the ANC will become a 30% party by the time of the local government elections, and maybe a 25% party by the 2029 elections. So maybe this was the agenda of this right wing of the ANC, to have an eventual merger in 2029 between what remains of the ANC and the DA into a new party that might, I think that's the only agenda, because there's no strength of the DA. The DA is a white party. If you look at the analysis right now, only 4% of Black people voted for the DA and they got 22%. In the predecessor of the DA, the NNP in 1994 got about 20% of the vote. So the DA is stagnant. It is going nowhere with its extreme. And I don't know why people talk about the extreme, unreasonable economic policy, the policies of the MK and EFF, when the DA is the one that's got extreme policies. The DA hates everything that Black people support and love. Things like BE, employment equity, the labor laws, the minimum wages, all of those things that Black people support, not implemented, with better implementation. The DA hates all those things and they want to abolish them, and who in their right, that is the most extreme thing to say in the South African economic context of apartheid. That is extremism of the DA, and we should be focusing on their extremism. The center in South African politics is center left. And until people accept that reality, this is what we're going to have here.
And just lastly, you mentioned that this could be the last kicks of a dying African National Congress. I want us to touch a bit on the internal dynamics within the ANC. There are a lot of objections, obviously, internally of that ANC DA IFP merger, and also looking at the numbers since President Cyril Ramaphosa came in after 2017 to be the leader of the ANC. Could there be first another breakaway within the ANC from the left that are obviously opposing, this ANC-DA merger, and also a recall probably of President Cyril Ramaphosa? Looking at the numbers, looking at his legacy within the ANC, it hasn't been great. What can we expect going forward in the next, conference of the ANC?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. So in 2019. There was a decline in ANC support under Cyril Ramaphosa. He was supposed to be a popular leader and he was supposed to get more votes for the ANC. So the people rejected him in 2019. There was a sharp decline in the number of voters for the ANC. 2021, compared to 2016, there was another sharp decline of 8.36 percentage points. And then now in this election, there was an unprecedented decline of 17 percentage points. So 3 elections under this president, at some point, and then we are heading for another break, as you say, of the left of the ANC, the majority of the ANC, which is center-left and not neoliberal. There will be a break of the ANC, and local government elections, 2019, it will become a 30% party, then a 20% party. Now, at what point do ANC people say, no, this is enough, we can't continue shedding votes at this level? It makes no sense. In a normal country, they would have sacrificed their leader, but a normal party, you know, like
collective responsibility. That's what they're calling it. Collective responsibility.
But the point is, at the end of the day, it's your leader. You know, like the leader. They they want to have their cake and eat it. They were telling us, no, the ANC leader is more popular than the ANC. If he's more popular, and then they say, no, it could be worse than this if it wasn't him. You know, I don't know. At some point, they'll realize that this is a dead end. This is a path towards the end of the ANC and the merger of the ANC with the DA by 2029. And that is not the ANC that we fought for, that emerges with the DA. That is where it's heading, logically. Yeah.
And just lastly, before I let you go, the first sitting of Parliament on Friday, your thoughts on that? Parting shot?
So I avoid political theater. I only focus on the economics of what's happening, about the unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Everything else, the political theater, I have no interest in it. I probably will not watch here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mr. Ggubule, thank you so much for your thoughts. Really, really interesting stuff. Well, we'll be watching. Maybe I will give you a shout to tell you what happened. There's Duma Ggubule there giving us insights on his very, very passionate thoughts about the ANC-DA IFP merger coalition. I think he's making a really, really good point. The fact that, well, if it was a government of national unity, it should be including 90% of the electorate. But it seems like this one will only be led by 3 political parties, which essentially makes it a coalition made up of the ANC, DA, and IFP. I think at this point, we're all leaning on speculation. We're not really sure what's going to come out on this coalition, and I think it's time that we start calling it a coalition. It doesn't really reflect what was the case in 1994 when a government of national unity was formed by former President Nelson Mandela, which was reflective of almost all the political parties which were on the ballot. This one only comprising of the 3 political parties, ANC, DA, and IFP, which makes it a coalition. We'll be watching closely. Well, I'll be in Cape Town on Friday for that first sitting of Parliament, and I'll be giving you the latest out of Cape Town, and I'm sure you'll be watching all of the proceedings and also the swearing in of the 7th administration's president and all of the MPs, which will be leading the country going forward. It's going to be really, really interesting times. Keep it locked to Salam Media. We'll be giving you the latest, but we're going to leave it there. Coming up next, we'll be speaking to Shabnam Mayat, and we'll be speaking about hashtag Black for Rohingya, and also reflecting on the world's most stateless population, which is the people of Rohingya, and some of atrocities that they are currently facing. So keep it locked to Salam Media, and I will be with you after the break.